Hey, welcome to the Sauvie Island Fire District Podcast, where we explore the people and the history that keeps our community safe. I'm your host, Chris Lake. Today, I want to put you in a 911 emergency and the world of volunteer fire departments. So imagine this. You're home, and as you're crawling into bed, you smell smoke. You look around, and sure enough, there's smoke in your home. First thing you do is you call 911 to get people responding. Now, at the same time, the volunteer firefighters maybe they're going to bed themselves, or they're working a graveyard shift, or they're watching a movie with their family. That's the reality of a volunteer fire department. Today, we are talking about why response times in volunteer fire departments tend to be slower. And why that doesn't mean these firefighters are any less capable of responding and helping. So first, I want to clear something up. When we're talking volunteer firefighter, we're not talking some hobbyist with a garden hose. We're talking about folks who've gone through hours of training, practiced their skills, certifications, getting medically trained, the whole deal. The difference is, as a full-time fire department or career department, those folks are paid to be at the station 24 hours a day. The volunteer departments, they can be anywhere when a 911 call comes in. They're living their lives, their day jobs, their night jobs, their families, running errands. Could be anything would cause them to be away from their home and away from the fire station. And then when the pager goes off, they're suddenly sprinting for the station. Not just ours, but a lot of communities, especially rural towns. They're entirely volunteer like us. Some instances, the closest city that has a full-time fire department could be 40, 50, 60 miles away. Volunteerism and volunteer firefighters are the backbone of emergency response and a huge part of this country. All right, let's get into it. Why does it take longer for volunteer firefighters to respond to alarms? Well, the first thing is they're not at the station. This is a big one. Like I said before, they could be working, they could be at the movies with their family, they could be running errands. Who knows what they're doing? Spending time with their family, but they're not at the station. Instead, they carry a pager or a phone app in our case, and when it alerts them to an emergency, they stop what they're doing and respond to the station. The volunteers, they got to respond to the station first and get a vehicle before they can continue on with the call. Only after they arrive at the station does the truck actually pull out. This could take anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on where they're at. The second is limited staffing. Volunteers aren't always available. Working, vacation, middle of the night, it could take them longer to get out of bed, get their clothes on, get in their vehicle, drive to the station. And then the other thing is trucks, they don't roll out with one person. They roll out with multiple people, not only to better serve the alarm, the incident, but also for their safety. On a fire, they need to have at least 3 people on a truck before they respond. The third issue is geographical challenge. Volunteer departments often cover huge areas. Like for instance, Sauvie Island, we're 32 square miles or 29,000 acres. That's a lot of area to cover. Even once the truck leaves the station, it could take 10, 15, 20 minutes to arrive on scene afterwards. And houses might be set back on long driveways. Every one of those factors add time. The fourth issue is funding constraint. Let's talk money. Volunteer departments usually operate on a much smaller budget than full-time career department. That means older equipment, fewer vehicles, sometimes only one station that covers a large area. Again, like Sauvie Island. Training costs money. Recruitment costs money. Maintenance of trucks and gear costs money. When funding is tight, everything gets stretched thinner. That can affect the response times. The fifth issue is increased call volume. Trends across the nation are going up and volunteerism is going down. More medical calls, more traffic accidents, more community needs. Meanwhile, fewer people are signing up to volunteer. Life is busier. The cost of living is much higher. The cost to raise a family is much higher. Usually it takes 2 people to make a good income to support a family and to live pretty much anywhere in the nation now. Life is busier. So the volunteer workload is rising. Workforce is shrinking. So why do communities still rely on volunteers? Now you might be thinking, if response times are slower, why don't we just hire full-time firefighters? Well, money. Full-time fire departments are expensive. You have salaries, benefits, equipment, and then this is to staff 24 hours a day. You have to have multiple shifts. And like I said, when responding to fire calls, you need to have multiple people on a vehicle. So now it's not just one person. You need to have 3 to be safe. Volunteer fire departments save communities millions of dollars a year. But besides the financial side of things, there's something deeply meaningful about neighbors helping neighbors. Volunteer firefighters often know the people they're responding to. They grew up with them, they go to church with them, their kids go to school together. That level of community connection, you just can't manufacture. How do we support these departments so they can respond faster and more effectively? Well, there's a few things that can make a huge difference. The first one is, well, it's kind of obvious. Respond to be a volunteer if you can. Even one more trained person in our community makes a difference. Support fundraising efforts to keep the department funded as best as we can. Advocate for grants and municipal funding. Sometimes the difference between 12-minute response time and 6-minute response time is a single new truck. Promote fire prevention. You prevent fires, we don't have to respond to fires. Just makes sense. Less strain on the volunteers. Okay, here's some closing thoughts. So yes, volunteer fire departments often have slower response times. But it's not because they're less dedicated. It's not because they don't care. It's because they're doing an incredibly demanding job in addition to everything else in their life. They're teachers, mechanics, nurses, business owners, moms, dads. And when the alarm sounds, they drop everything to help the community. If anything, the slower response times highlights just how much they sacrifice to serve. So next time you see a volunteer firefighter, thank them, support them, and remember that behind every delayed response is a group of people doing the absolute best they can with the resources they have. If you've ever thought of serving, reach out to us on our website at www.sifire.org or join us Wednesday night when we train, or send us an email at iwanttovolunteer@sifire.org and we'll get you more information. In our next podcast, we'll discuss the standards that the fire district trains the firefighters and EMTs and what level and amount of time it takes in this training. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time on the Sauvie Island Fire District Podcast.